This is actually just sort of a filler video. I hate to break it right at the start here. I need all the sphagnum moss in there. This video is gonna be about taking those little baby plants out of that tub back there so that we can pot them up, so that we can get them going, we can actually introduce them to the plant room here. And most importantly, so I can clear that tub up, so I can get all that sphagnum moss out of there, and we can prepare for an even bigger project. Let's see if we can catch any. Oh, you see them? Look at all these little fungus gnats. They're just kind of like breaking out in here. I've become disgusted with growing my baby plants in this sphagnum moss here. I don't like opening it and have the little gnats jumping all over me. I do have a pitcher plant right up here that's been helping out by devouring as many little fungus gnats as it can. And not to mention, I need this sphagnum moss right here for a much larger project. Remember I said at the beginning of this video that I was going to be hinting at a much larger project? Well, you know, don't peek too much behind me. Are we sort of diving into the video yet? Ugh. Am I feeling a little bit looser? I think I'm feeling a little bit looser. Did I get a good shot of the little gnats flying out of this thing? Yeah, like I said before, I've basically just become disgusted with working with these disgusting little bugs. I think I'm gonna shift right up close to you here so that we can pull some plants out of this tub and we can take a look at the roots. This is actually gonna be the exciting part. I don't know how I'm gonna show you the roots, guys. I think I'll probably just hold my hand up like this or something. I'll just kind of dangle it in there, let you get a good look at it. We've got just a little sprout down here at the bottom. This is our Rex begonia back here. Funny story about our Rex begonia is that I had got this plant maybe a month or so ago, and at that time I was building a plant display for a store called Tangles in my little town called Waxhaw in North Carolina. And my Rex begonia just sort of fit in with the wood grains of the tables and stuff that I was using. The reds and the tones in this thing just sort of all kind of worked out. I took a cutting off of the Rex begonia. I said goodbye, even though it was my newest plant, and I hadn't even really got a chance to you know, watch her grow or anything like that. And then about a week or so ago, I took that opportunity to rescue my Rex begonia. And now, my friends, she's back in my possession. I love the way she's kind of hanging around the grow lights here. I'm just starting to, you know, at first I didn't really love the dangling plants and things like that, but I'm starting to find such an appreciation for these plants that send out these just long, kind of dangling vines, and I'll tell you why. This is an example. This is the first terrarium that we ever built on this channel, and just look at the way that these dangling plants just kind of add to the environment. I'm starting to pay so much more attention to not only the focal point of whatever we're building, whatever project we're working on, but also just sort of everything around it. That's what I love about houseplants, is that they add such an ambiance to the room. And I don't want to stop, to be honest with you, until I feel like I think it was Jurassic Park. I think it was the movie Jurassic Park when I was a kid. Ever since I saw that flippin' movie, I've wanted my space. I've wanted my space that I live in to just sort of feel like I'm in the middle of a jungle. But here we are right now. I saved the Rex begonia. I'm gonna go grab a step stool and we're gonna plant her little baby right back into the pot up there. All right, and then we wish it the best of luck. So that kind of leads me to one good point about taking cuttings and all that sort of thing. This is kind of a funny misconception, but I feel like a lot of people have this misconception that when you take a cutting off of a plant, I feel like there's a bit of a misconception that you have to take all of those little babies and you have to turn them into their own individual little plants. Well, that's not true at all. I mean, I guess that would be true if you're trying to, you know, propagate your plants and sell them. But in our case, in a lot of cases, you know, it's fine to just take all your plants and plant them back into the mother plant, give it more of like a full kind of bushy look, or maybe start a new project like I'm gonna do with these little dwarf jade plants. These have been in here the least amount of time. Maybe not the least amount of time, but they have just a little bit of roots. Let me see if I can find one that's doing okay. You see how, you know, you might think, wow, look how much roots are popping out of that thing, but really it's all just sphagnum moss. Watch. There it goes. But underneath all that, there is a tiny little string on there, a tiny little root. This is where I took all those cuttings from, was this was this dwarf jade forest is what I'm calling it. I wanted to kind of go with a more bonsai look and turn these little dwarf jade plants into tiny little trees. And who knows, maybe if we plug those little guys into their own pot, eventually they'll grow up into little dwarf jade forest plants, and maybe we'll start a much bigger project with little dwarf jades. This pot I got from I randomly stopped at a flea market, and there was this like old Asian looking guy, and he had just, the whole flea market was going on inside. He had just a U-Haul truck that he kind of drove up to the side of the parking lot, and he had kind of all of his stuff spilling out of it. And this and a few other pots were part of it, and I saw them, and I actually didn't have any cash on me, and that's all he could take, so I had to like run in and find a cash machine and all this stuff. It was kind of an interesting story, but I think we're going to use this little pot to plant all of our baby jades. And while we're in here, I know we're going to need one more pot. I've been waiting for a time to use this one right here as well. This pot is the counterpart to that little that dwarf jade forest that I just showed you. That other pot that I brought in, the counterpart to our dwarf jade forest over there, is going to be this not dwarf jade. And this is one of those ones that surprisingly, you pull all the sphagnum moss off and you've still got a good healthy amount of roots popping out of this thing. So this is my rootiest. This is the rootiest, the jade plant right here. Can you see all those against my black? Is that a little bit easier? Woo, woo. Anyways, that's a jade plant. These are both ginseng plants, if I'm not mistaken. This is one has definitely got some roots going on it. In fact, I want to be a little bit careful as I pull the, I don't even necessarily need to pull the sphagnum moss off, but I want to show you guys. I don't know, that jade plant had some roots, but this one sure has the, it's got the dangliest. Give it a little dunk in some rooting powder, even though this one doesn't need too much more inspiration to grow roots. And then it's convenient. It's a convenient way to just kind of fill up this little vessel. Boop. And we'll just kind of watch those roots. If anything, it's a bit of an art piece just sitting back here on the shelf. I should get some lighting or something to go behind there and kind of have it glow and maybe throw some shadows from the plants over here. It's almost a, sometimes I consider just letting them grow in that water. I think that's a pretty cool looking piece right back there. It's just a piece of fiberglass screen that I wanted to get just to cover up the little drain hole in the bottom of this pot. A little tip on not getting soil all over your shelves and things. I'm learning as I go along. This one had a particularly large drain hole. We always want to leave about 1 inch from the top so that we can water and everything stays in the pot and everything's nice and clean and all of that kind of stuff. It's going to be a little baby. It's going to be a baby dwarf jade forest. And basically what we'll do with these is we'll just set them on a shelf somewhere. We'll watch them grow. We'll watch to see which ones develop the coolest looking little roots. And we'll start planting them. We'll save them for a bigger project of some sort. I'm gonna use the old thing on top of my neck here to make sure that I've got some baby dwarf jade plants ready to go. And not only that, but a nice variety to choose from on that next project. Was that something good to fill the silence? Are you guys people that enjoy filling the silence? I always feel like I have to fill the silence. I'm kind of working on it as I get older, but I still I think that's why I enjoy making videos, is because I enjoy having a reason to actually talk while I'm doing this sort of stuff. Otherwise, I just find it a little bit too monotonous and boring. I've also been trying to use the word monotonous a lot more often. And you know what? I've got a special treat. I've got a special treat in store for you guys, waiting just around the corner. We're going to give these plants a good old-fashioned welcome to their new home, to their new pot. And what does the plant love most? Well, a plant loves nothing more than a good old soaking of rain, a good old rainfall. Unfortunately, this plant lives in my plant room. I can't provide it a rainfall naturally from the clouds, but what I can provide it is something that it'll know no different, and that's rainfall from within a shower. What you think, buddy? You should see this thing when I've got it completely full of plants. The whole thing steams up. It's like a little miniature rainforest inside the bathroom here. I think I actually enjoy it more than the plants do. Now let's get back to business. Let's get back to planting business. Did I mention at the beginning of this video that I've got a project? I've been stewing on, I've been working on, I've been thinking about, I've been getting excited about. I'm not quite sure if I'm gonna have enough dirt to fill our next pot here, but I'm gonna give it a good old-fashioned try anyways. Plus, also one more little treat that I'm gonna share with you in preparation for our future project. See, this was kind of the vision that I had from this channel from the very beginning, and I'm finally sort of finding my footsteps on it. So I wanted to have I wanted to do some really awesome projects, terrarium builds, aquariums even, paludariums like we did in a few videos ago, all of that sort of stuff. But I also wanted to just have this kind of day-to-day filler sort of stuff, and I wanted to kind of find a way to bring to light what actually goes on in my head, between all of these, larger projects, something that takes a little bit more planning and a little bit more brain power than just pulling some plants out of an old sphagnum moss tub and planting them up in a pot. And that's where you're catching me right now. I'm right in the middle. I've been thinking for days. So how it works for me is that I generally get really excited about a project. I got so excited that in my previous video, I dragged that whole clay tub in here. I got it all set up. I kind of teased it a little bit. It would be like I start to kind of formulate a picture of the finished project, of whatever I'm thinking. Now I know from experience that this picture that I'm starting to formulate is not the final picture. It's not even close, because the picture always changes. The picture evolves and it grows as the plans change and as reality comes to play, and we start to realize, what can I actually do with the things I have, and that sort of stuff. No, I'm rambling here. So I guess the best way that I could describe it is when I first start thinking about a project, when I first start getting excited about a project, I just let my mind sort of go wild. What could I do? What would it doesn't matter how much work it would take. It doesn't matter how much money it would cost. You just dream. You dream big, You let something sort of formulate. You let something bubble up to the top of your head. And then what I've learned to do is I used to just sort of react to that moment, and I would get things. I would start buying stuff and I would start organizing everything, and by the end of it I would get overwhelmed, and a lot of times I would actually quit the project. But since then, what I've learned to do is I've learned to let the idea marinate. Even just let it marinate one night. In the morning, are you still thinking about this project? If you're not still thinking about the project in the morning, then it's not something that you're really going to end up having the motivation to do. So stop thinking about it. Move on at that point. And then what I like to do is I like to let it marinate. So in the case of this new project behind me, for example, I moved some of the things that I already had in place. I started getting the idea together. I started bringing the vision that I was seeing in my head into more of a reality, so that I could actually browse over to that corner and I could see it not only in my brain, but I could also see it starting to translate into real life. And it's all still part of the marinating process. We've brought everything down to reality. I'm getting an actual plan in place. What can I do? What can I do in a day with you and make a video about it? Now it looks a little bit kind of funky right now. It almost doesn't peek out into the top of this container here. But have no fear, because jade plants, they actually grow into a similar sort of tree-like structure as well. If you see like a great big like mother jade plant, it actually, you almost wouldn't recognize it from its babies because it has such a, almost like a little ginseng plant where it has such a bulbous kind of root structure thing going on, and it's really neat. I'm looking forward to this little baby in here maybe someday turning into something similar to that. Now, of course, those are completely, they're not the same plant. I just want to point that out. But this is a full jade plant. That's a normal jade plant, and this is a dwarf jade plant. We've got one last thing to do. And for that, I need a few kitchen tools. Actually, you know what? Let's go for the good one. Are we recording again? Yeah, thank God. But all right, now that we've got our tub cleared out, we've got a bucket full of sphagnum moss. All the little gnats I've seen are kind of have made their way out of here, thank God. I did mention at the beginning of this video, and probably all throughout this video, that I've been preparing. One of the reasons that I emptied this bucket is because I'm preparing for an upcoming project with you. And for that project, I needed all the rest of the sphagnum moss. And right now, the sphagnum moss in its current form, it's a little bit, it's long and it's stringy, and it just kind of needs to be broken up a little bit. I just got sphagnum moss all over my floor for that shot. I hope it was worth it. But instead of just sitting here and ripping up this sphagnum moss, I'm going to do it in style. I'm going to chop this stuff up in style with a tool from the kitchen, mind you. This is just called a mandolin, and wait for it. This is the coolest thing about this. Is this called a mandolin? I don't know. No, this is called a, you know what? I don't know what the heck this kind of blade is called, but it's for chopping vegetables and doing cool things like that. It's for all sorts of chopping. You know what inspired me to get this blade? I went to a salad place called Chopped in my town in North Carolina, and they take all of your lettuce and your everything you throw into your bowl there, all of your little veggies and stuff that you want to throw in. They throw it down on a table and they just kind of chop it up real quick with this sort of thing. They scoop all that into your bowl. They throw your dressing in there, and it was one of the best. I got addicted to the salads for a long time. It was one of the best dang salads I ever had. And since then, I had to find one. I went to a store. Turns out you can just buy these things pretty much anywhere. I got me an awesome little blade like that even does this. Did you hear that like unsheathing sound? Let me get it just in case you didn't get a good one. Leave it right close to the mic. I don't know, it just sounds so cool when you unsheath it. But I also thought that this would be the coolest tool to slice up some sphagnum moss. Let's maybe even start rolling some out music. And we'll put some big old piles of sphagnum moss on our thing here. We'll get to work. We'll chop through this. I was hoping it would work maybe a little bit better. That's getting there actually. It's just a little thick. We do it in the middle. Anyways, we'll get the hang of this thing. What I've really been experiencing the past couple days, and what I'm really hoping to get across in this stuff is just the planning phase, coming up with a new project. You know, I do kind of think about that a lot, believe it or not. It's so fun, for me anyways. This is how I work. I get into for me, how I work is when I've got a new project on the horizon, I'm so excited about that project. I love getting into things like that. I love diving deep. I love doing all the research that I need to do and all the planning and everything that I need to do to accomplish it. But, and this is the part in life that I've been working on for so long. When that project is over, it's kind of it's a bit of an ebb and flow kind of lifestyle. It's a bit of an up and down, a little bit more of a roller coaster way to live. Because when you've got a project going on, you're riding up, you're planning, you're excited, you're motivated, you're doing things, you're feeling great, your health is usually awesome. Everything just seems to be working just perfect. And then when that project's done, there's a little bit of a phase where you can enjoy it and feel accomplished for what you've done and that sort of thing. But pretty soon after that, the way that our silly brains work is, for some reason, it always asks, what's next? What's next? What's the next project gonna be? And what I've learned to do is just kind of take the lessons you've learned from the last one and embrace the fact that the projects are always going to be coming. Embrace the fact that it'll never end. There is sort of a lull between things, sort of this void phase when you're between projects and you don't really know what to do next, and you want to kind of take some of the things that you've learned from the last few projects, and you always want to do something that kind of lets you grow a little bit, something bigger and better than you did the last time. But what I've learned to do is just use those in-between moments to rest, to listen, to just kind of, watch for signs of what's next. What we don't realize is that we're tricking ourselves. And in that in-between phase, in those funks, if you're anything like me anyways, in those funks, where you're just kind of like wandering along, not really knowing what to do next, but knowing that you want to do something and blah, 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 blah. The trick is that we spend our time actually thinking about that instead of just letting life inspire us. And there's so many things in life to inspire you that there's really, it's a gold mine. I feel so blessed that we have things like the internet, that we have things like YouTube, that you can be watching me do projects that will hopefully inspire you to get out there and find some resources and kind of, pull things together of your own and put little projects together of your own. Inspire other people that are in your life to do the same thing. And I guess in a weird, kind of funky way, I just imagine that if we all just kind of get into to just being excited about doing this kind of, not even necessarily this kind of stuff with plants and nature like I'm into, that's just what I'm into. But if we all just kind of get into what we're, whatever, makes us smile in the morning, and we all sort of do that, I just imagine that we can, if we all start actually living that way, I just imagine that we'll all be so darn happy. I mean, the world has to be a better place after that, right?